Welcome back to Spirit at Work with our guest today, Riley Lochridge, the retired chairman and CEO of Comdoc. Riley, before the break, we were asking what were factors that influenced who you are and your core values. You mentioned a few. Anything else you want to add?
I would share a general comment, Father Norm, and that one has to do with the subject of mentor or mentors. And what I've shared with so many people in the past, that I've been so blessed to come in contact with so many different people, all of whom have provided a good example for and good coaching for me. And I highly recommend that everyone be as open as they possibly can to create as many mentoring relationships both ways to help them and to help those they come in contact with throughout their career.
Riley, in your business, they talk about effective leaders help shape a vision and share the vision and pass it on. Is that true in your case? And if so, how so?
Yeah, I think a vision has so much to do with creating an overall purpose and getting people, if you will, signed up for believing in that vision. And my own philosophy on business has always been shared as being about people and expectations, process and strategy. And if you have the right people, and there are many more right people than we think, they'll develop the right processes, debate their way to a higher level consensus and thought. Thus you'll have more likely excellence in execution. So what business is really about? It's about people and expectations. Our vision is to be a great place to work, and I like to say a great place to work, and to be a great place to be a customer. In order to do that, we need to assist our people to become the very best they can be, such that they can go out into each of the communities in which they reside, starting with their families, then their friends and their neighbors, then at work with our suppliers, with their fellow workers, and with our customers, and out into the community at large, and be the very best examples for and contributors to each of those communities. Now, if we do that, if we help them, as I mentioned earlier, to think and walk, talk, act, do, and be different than they once were, where they have that sense about them, and they can make these contributions, be that kind of an example, then they're going to be more likely to stay with us once with us, and it's going to be easier to attract people into the business. Now, if in fact you believe that people and expectations make the difference, if it's easier to attract, more importantly, retain people, then your business is going to do fine, because you'll have more of the right kind of people doing the right kind of things, and you'll thus be a great place to be a customer. That's what we've sold. The people believed in it, and they really felt it and lived it.
Looking back over the years, what challenges have you confronted or been forced to confront? You know, when you deal in values-based leadership and a pluralistic workplace, a diversity of religious tradition, and diversity of what values people hold out as important. What challenges have you had, and how have you been able to meet those challenges?
Well, I would really lay out for you that originally with the company, we were somewhat led in an autocratic way, where the top person was making all the decisions. We were a family business. We wanted to become a professional business that just happened to be family owned, and then we transitioned that into an employee owned company with an established culture of ownership. But of course the big challenge, again, and if you ask any executive, what if you could have one thing, what would it be? If that executive is capable, he'll always share, or she'll always share, if I could have just one more person that's ready to go and lead the organization to doing more of the kinds of things we're trying to do. So it really was establishing a network of people and getting to a point where all of our people do what I call celebrate the gap between who and what they are today and who and what they're in the process of becoming for tomorrow. Because if they'll do that, understanding a career is a long time, if they'll get into that development mode, good things happen off of that. That was the single biggest challenge that we faced.
Let me ask this. You're in business. Business needs to be profitable. It's of its nature competitiveness. How do you take those aspects and tie in being loving, being concerned about your employees, about other people in the community?
Well, I'll say two things. I believe that profits And it's really just more revenue, more value associated with that revenue, and running an efficient business. That falls to a bottom called profit. That's a byproduct of good work. It's a byproduct of being in the right kinds of business, in the right kind of manner, and operating in a fashion that attracts customers, retains customers, and has customers wanting to build with you. And how does that happen? That happens from having a whole host of good, solid people thinking properly about how they can bring value out into the marketplace. So I would tell you that while that kind of challenge comes up, and while it might be easier for a private company versus a public company that has quarterly results that they've got to meet each time rather than a longer term horizon, it might be a little more difficult. We really didn't wrestle with that kind of thing very much, because we knew if we continued to get better as individuals and a collective team, the results would follow.
How were you able to develop that? The lawyer in me has to ask, how did you deal with workplace conflict, differences of opinion on how to derive greater value, or just in the production process? How did you deal with that?
Well, you know, you always say the speed of the leader is the speed of the team. And I would tell you that conflict is good. Conflict is not good if you don't know about it. But any conflict that is put up on the table, the only question I ever asked is this to derive some benefit? Are you putting forth this conflicting kind of thought or statement because you believe it will be helpful to, at the very least, have a good dialogue about what the conflict is on? And so if in fact it's all about something that's trying to improve the organization, create additional health, conflict is a welcome thing. In fact, if you don't have enough conflict, you don't debate to a higher level consensus in thinking, your strategy will be off track. And that's an important piece. And that's what good people do, develop the right process and argue their way, debate their way to a higher level consensus in thinking. That's called strategy.
Just have a few more moments before our break, but want to ask you, what about in this age where people have had to be let go of people because of the times and everything? How do you do that in a caring way?
Well, that, you know, first off, we've always maintained a posture that whatever type of action you put forth, it has to be with the individual's dignity in mind. And you don't want anybody to be surprised any more than necessary. And sometimes tough stuff has to be done, and one person can never be up ahead of everybody.
Yeah.
So it's tough.
And you continue to be caring. Again, we'll be right back in a moment in this lively, interesting conversation.